The night was bitterly cold as snow fell quietly outside. High up in the mountains, inside a dim church, Bianca knelt before the statue of a saint. Her body shivered from the chill, but the pain she carried within hurt even more. "O Almighty God," she whispered through trembling lips, "there was a time when I blamed and resented you for all my suffering, but please, give me one more chance. I was such a fool." Tears fell down her cheeks as she coughed blood, her frail body quivering. "If I'm given another chance, I'll never make that same stupid mistake again." A sharp pain tore through her chest, and she collapsed to the floor. Her eyes closed slowly as her body weakened. "No, this isn't how I want to die. I don't want to die like this," she muttered faintly, her resolve fighting against the darkness as her consciousness faded. The next morning, sunlight streamed into a room, warm and golden. Birds chirped loudly outside the window, breaking the silence. Bianca lay in bed, her body at ease, breathing freely. "It's so noisy. Did I fall asleep right after I collapsed?" she thought, sitting up slowly. "It's easier to breathe now. I must have gotten good sleep." But the moment she noticed her surroundings, her eyes widened. The setting was completely different. She rushed to the mirror, only to stumble back in shock. Her skin was clear and smooth, her hair long and flowing with a healthy sheen. "What? Why am I back?" she gasped, her hands trembling as she touched her reflection. Then she shouted, panic breaking through. "No, this isn't what I wanted." She grabbed a vase from the table and hurled it to the floor, shattering it into pieces. This is Bianca de Arnaud, more commonly known as Madame Bianca or Countess Arnaud in the Kingdom of Sivron. Among her people, she was infamous, whispered about as the very definition of a wicked wife. Her husband, Count Zachary de Arnaud, was the opposite, a loyal vassal of the King of Sivron and right-hand man to the first prince, Gautier. While Zachary risked his life on battlefields, Bianca indulged herself, commissioning custom-made dresses daily, adorning herself with jewelry crafted by Sevron's finest masters. On other days, she would lock herself in her chambers, scream like a madwoman, and destroy expensive furniture without reason. "How many days has it been since her ladyship refused meals and sent the cleaning maids away?" one servant whispered as she passed Bianca's door. "About 4 days, I think," another replied. "Shouldn't we check on her? What if something's happened?" "That would be for the best. Everyone knows what a burden she's been to his lordship. Sooner or later, she'll face punishment." The first maid scoffed. The truth was that Arnaud territory had suffered under unstable leadership for years, passing from one lord to another. But with Count Zachary's arrival, stability had slowly returned. A frugal, steady man, he had earned wealth from war and was expected to secure prosperity for Arnaud. That is, if not for Bianca, who squandered much of his fortune on extravagance. To make matters worse, even after 8 years of marriage, it was rumored that the couple had never consummated their union. Bianca was said to treat Zachary coldly, without respect or affection. "What will happen to Arnaud if something happens to the Count?" the first maid worried, as she scrubbed the floor. "They've been married 8 years without an heir." Meanwhile, inside her chamber, Bianca sat quietly, while knitting lace with practiced hands. "This is lace," she thought, staring at the pattern. "It only became fashionable in my 30s, and I learned how to tat lace in the Abbey." Her grip tightened around the fabric. "This isn't a dream. This is real." Suddenly, she rose and opened her door, stepping out into the hall. The maids nearby froze, their eyes widening as she passed. "Did she hear what we said?" one whispered nervously. Bianca strode into the butler's office, startling him mid-task. "Vinny, how old am I this year?" she demanded. The butler cleared his throat nervously. "It's Vincent, madame. You're 19 this year." "19? I'm only 19?" she muttered in disbelief. "Where is his lordship?" "He's at the front lines, madame. He's been away for months." "You mean he's at war?" Bianca asked quietly. "Yes, but how could she not know this?" Vincent thought, troubled. "Do you know when he's returning?" she pressed. "His last message said, 'This winter.'" "I see." Bianca lowered her gaze before raising her voice again. "There's something I want, Vinny. I can't stand the cold. Get me a fur coat. A white fox fur coat." The request made Vincent tense, but he bowed. "Understood, madam." Her demand reminded Vincent of Count Zachary's words before he departed for war. "Get my wife everything she wants," Zachary had said firmly. "She gave up her life of comfort in Blanchefort when she married me. I want to make up for that loss. Whatever she desires, provide it in the highest quality. That is my duty as her husband. But as Vincent sighed in the present, he thought grimly, I'm sure you never imagined how extravagant Madame Bianca could be, my lord. To him, their marriage resembled a failing business, one that had suffered constant losses with no return. Still, he procured the coat as ordered. When Bianca received it, she lit up with genuine joy. You always manage to find the best. Well done, Vinny, she said with a bright smile, giving him a playful thumbs up. If you're going to praise me, could you at least use my full name? He muttered under his breath. I recall you asked about his lordship's return, Vincent added more seriously. A new message arrived this morning. He has entered Arno territory. Bianca stiffened, clutching her coat tightly. Understood. That night, she stepped out to the balcony, wearing her new fur coat. The cold air bit against her skin, but her eyes shone with determination. Bianca de Arno, once rumored to be nothing but a selfish and wicked wife, now clenched her fists and whispered a vow to the heavens. I've come back to life. I've truly returned to Arno. God gave me a second chance, and I will live it properly this time. I will not make the same foolish mistake again. Her voice rang against the winter air, strong and resolute. Not far away, Count Zachary de Arno and his men approached the castle. He raised his binoculars, spotting his wife on the balcony. My lord, one knight asked, how does it feel, returning home after so long? Through the lenses, Zachary watched Bianca, who appeared to be shouting with fierce expression toward the sky. My wife is shrieking at the heavens, he said calmly. The knight blinked, confused. Pardon? Zachary lowered the binoculars with a steady gaze. She looks well. As the troops drew nearer to Arno Castle, within the countship of Arno in the kingdom of Sevran, 2 guards stationed atop the walls caught sight of the advancing banners. One of them spoke up, his voice filled with recognition. I see the Black Wolf flag before us in the distance. His lordship has returned. At once, the bells rang out across the castle, echoing through the cold air to announce the return of the army. The gates opened wide to receive them, and the shout went up. Lord Zachary de Arno, the Count of Blood and Iron, has returned. That title, Count of Blood and Iron, was no mere boast. Zachary had earned it on the battlefield, where his silver hair, slick with blood, gleamed like a newly forged sword under the sun. For his enemies, the sight alone struck terror into their hearts. At the castle's entrance, Vincent, the steward, waited faithfully. Welcome back to the castle, my lord. A meal has been prepared in the banquet hall, he greeted warmly. Zachary nodded, his expression calm but resolute. Thank you, Vincent. It has been a long journey home for us all. I commend you for your perseverance. Tonight, let us eat and drink to our heart's content. His words earned cheers from the knights who had marched with him. The returning soldiers soon found themselves surrounded by curious townsfolk and retainers. How was the expedition this time? One asked. One of the commanders, Sauveur, could not contain his pride. It was the best. You'll regret not coming with us. You missed the chance to see my brilliant performance on the battlefield, he declared, giving a thumbs up. Beside him, Gaspard, another commander, remained silent. Robert III frowned. How can you chatter on like that for hours? Don't you ever tire? Gaspard, tell Robert to stop nagging, Sauveur retorted, only for Robert to shoot back. Sauveur smirked, reminding him of the battlefield. Hey, Sir Robert, whose life I saved. Have you forgotten already? I deflected that arrow with my sword before it pierced you. You should be thanking me. Robert scowled. Damn it, who knew I'd end up in your debt? Sauveur only laughed harder, enjoying his triumph. Oh, I'll be telling this tale to your future wife, your son, your grandson. Every descendant of yours will hear of it. His boasting was abruptly cut short when someone cleared her throat behind him. Sauveur turned, and at once he and the other knights froze. It was Lady Arno. It has been a while, my lady, they said, bowing quickly. Her face was unreadable, her tone steady. Where is his lordship? She asked. He's gone up to his room. The first thing he does upon returning is take a bath, even before eating, Sauveur answered carefully. I see. With that, Bianca turned and walked back into the castle halls, leaving the men uneasy in her wake. The knights whispered among themselves. What was that about? Sauveur muttered, still shaken. She's grown so much while we were away. Wasn't she just waist-high when we last saw her? Another noted the white fox fur draped over her shoulders. Did you see that coat? White fox pelts aren't easily obtained. Her taste has grown as extravagant as her height. Robert quickly rebuked him. Stop it, Sauveur. We mustn't comment on what his lordship permits. But Sauveur smirked. Oh, come off it. Your face shows your disapproval as clearly as your words deny it. Still, the question lingered in Gaspard's mind. But why would Madame Bianca want to see his lordship? This is the first time she's ever sought him out upon his return from battle. As Bianca made her way through the castle, her thoughts weighed heavily on her. Has it been 15 years? 16? How long since I last truly saw my husband? Her steps slowed as she approached Zachary's chamber. She had come with purpose this day. There was something important she needed to say. She stopped at the door, peering through the slight crack, and her face flushed at the sight inside. Zachary, his bare chest revealed, was undressing after the long campaign. She heard his voice, steady and commanding as he spoke with Vincent. That is why I plan to begin restructuring the territory at once. Prepare a document with the executive breakdowns and next year's budget. I'll review them before bed. Vincent bowed. Yes, my lord. It was then that Zachary noticed her. Bianca? He called. Startled, she stammered, her cheeks red. The door was open. I wasn't trying to peep. Zachary quietly pulled his shirt back on. What brings you here? Is it urgent? If you need anything, you can ask Vincent, as you've always done. His cold, distant tone made Bianca's heart ache. She frowned. Am I only allowed to see you in emergencies? I heard of your return and came because I am your wife. Vincent shifted uneasily in the background. Bianca thought to herself, this man is as rigid and intimidating as ever. Does he find me bothersome for coming now when he's weary from war? Should I leave and return tomorrow? No, I won't make the same mistake again. If I don't take the first step, I'll remain stuck forever. Summoning courage, she spoke firmly. You! Leave us for a moment. I have something to discuss with his lordship. Vincent flinched. Yes, my lady. He left the room but lingered just outside, pressing his ear to the door in curiosity. Madame Bianca wants to speak with him? What could she possibly have to say? Inside, Zachary leaned against the window, regarding her calmly. I never thought I'd see the day you'd want to converse with me. So, what is it you wish to discuss? Bianca hesitated, then found her voice. I'd like to make a proposal. We have been married for 8 years. I am 19 now, and I will turn 20 after this winter. I would like to fulfill my duty as a wife. Zachary frowned slightly. Duty? What do you mean by that? She swallowed hard, stepping closer. I mean an heir. I am ready to bear the child who will be the next Count of Arno. I want to have your baby. There was once an era when the lives of noblewomen were governed almost entirely by marriage. Before their wedding vows, a lady was always under the care of her father or her brothers, her life shaped and constrained by their decisions. Once married, her husband and his family took over that responsibility. But if she were ever to lose all of that, if she had no father, no siblings, no husband's protection, and no heir to solidify her place, then her life could only spiral into misery. Such a woman would be left with nothing, living out her days in wretched isolation. This reality weighed heavily on Bianca. Her voice was firm, serious, almost unshakable this time, as she told Zachary, So, I'm going to have your baby. Her words left Zachary momentarily mute. He raised his hand to his chin, trying to process what he had just heard. Honestly, I'm rather taken aback, he admitted. Then, narrowing his gaze, he asked her the blunt question that flushed her cheeks with red. Do you know what you must do in order to conceive a child? Bianca's pride stung. You're treating me like a child, she shot back, though her face betrayed her embarrassment. Of course, I know. Inside, though, her thoughts raced. I may be physically 19 years old, but mentally, I'm older than you. I lived a longer life than you did before I died. And besides, in my past life, we did sleep together once, sometime in my early 20s. I remember it clearly, the way you pursued me with relentless tenacity. How could I not know what it means to have a baby? Her voice stammered in the present. I've heard the maids talk about it, so I know everything I need to know, she said, trying to mask her nervousness. Then, louder and with determination, Isn't it my job to give birth to the next Count of Arno? Of course I should know that much. Zachary's expression shifted as he straightened his posture, towering above her. Bianca instinctively flinched at his movement. So, he asked carefully, do you think you can do it? We both know the manner in which a child is conceived. But will you be able to do that with me to bear my child? He stepped toward her with deliberate calm, but Bianca backed away until her shoulders met the solid wood of the door. His hand pressed firmly against it, closing the space between them, and his eyes pinned hers in place. Her body tensed under his stare. He seems angry, she thought, her chest tightening. I didn't think he'd welcome the idea right away, but this look of his frightens me. I see you're still scared of me, Zachary said, reading the timidity in her face. Pardon? She asked, startled, but instead of pressing further, he turned away. Why don't you retire to your chamber and get some rest? I'd like to rest as well. Wait, she blurted out, not wanting the conversation to end. Let's continue this later, Zachary insisted, reaching for the door handle. Her panic rose. What? No. If this continues, if I don't have a baby, then I'll be forced to live through those miserable years all over again. No, no, no. Absolutely not. Her hand shot out and caught his. My lord, she said, her face taut with tension, do you remember how much our marriage cost? For a moment, silence filled the air between them. Then Zachary slowly removed his hand from the handle, his eyes fixed steadily on hers. Bianca swallowed hard, waiting. 400 calves, he began, his tone grave. 900 pigs, 100 silver bowls, 300 bolts of silk, 2 chests of jewels, and a portion of the territory. In total, the Arno household's budget for 2 years. Bianca stiffened at his precise recall. A dowry, money brought from the bride's family to her husband's house, was essentially an early inheritance, meant to secure her place and support her in her new life. It was a staggering sum, one that few husbands could recite in such detail. After all, dowries weren't numbers one rattled off easily. Unless, of course, a man had reason to, like when he intended to divorce his wife. For in such cases, the dowry had to be returned in full. Her thoughts darkened. So the rumors are true, her eyes narrowed. I see it's true that you have a mistress, she said coldly. Don't worry. I won't tell you to end the relationship. You can keep seeing her. Zachary's face froze in disbelief. What? You can even put her under me as your second wife, Bianca added, her smile sharp and strained. I won't interfere. My family paid a large dowry for me to be here, so let me do my duty. Let me prove my worth. What's with that look on his face? She wondered. He seems unsettled, but of course he would be. Any husband would be offended if his wife brought up his mistress so bluntly. Zachary finally sighed. I wonder who in the world planted such ridiculous lies in your head. His eyes hardened. As for an heir, we'll naturally discuss that when the time is right. For now, it is useless to talk about it. Bianca's heart sank. Wait, just a minute. What do you mean by useless? She demanded, confusion lacing her voice. But Zachary had had enough. Vincent, he called, his voice cutting through the air. I know you're standing outside the door. Escort Madame Bianca back to her chamber. Outside, Vincent flinched at being caught eavesdropping. He opened the door slowly, tense and uneasy. Yes, my lord. I shall take you to your chamber, madame, he said respectfully. Wait, my lord, please listen. This is important to me, my lord! Bianca cried out, but Zachary did not answer. Vincent gently guided her out, and the heavy door shut firmly behind them. Inside the room, Zachary lowered himself into a chair, covering his face with his hand. He exhaled deeply, fatigue weighing on him. His thoughts drifted back. Her nursemaid, she died of the plague. That nursemaid had come with Bianca from Blanchefort, the only person she trusted when she first arrived in Arno. When the woman died, Bianca was left alone, a young girl with no one to turn to. She had refused food and water, weeping endlessly. Zachary had tried to comfort her back then, but she pushed him away harshly. Don't come close to me, she had cried. If you've just returned from the battlefield, why didn't you change out of your armor first? You reek of blood. Her tears fell as her voice trembled in both fear and anger. His eyes landed on the fur coat she had discarded on the floor earlier. He picked it up, his mind drifting further into memory. When she first came here, even meeting my gaze made her cry. She avoided me every time I returned from war, saying I reeked of blood. And yet, today, she touched me without hesitation. Even though I still smell of sweat and iron from the battlefield, she didn't flinch. What has changed while I was away? Meanwhile, outside, Vincent escorted Bianca back to her chamber. She clenched her fists tightly, her thoughts darkening as she walked. I was 21 the first time the Count and I slept together. After that, it only happened when he was about to leave for war. And yet, even then, I could never give him an heir. Her face hardened with anger. I know how his story ends. Zachary will die on the battlefield when I am 26. 7 years from now, he is destined to fall. That means I must act quickly. I must give him a child before it's too late. Even if I have to throw myself at him, I need to have his baby. Vincent spoke softly. Madam, I shall escort you to your chamber, pulling Bianca from her thoughts. She turned to him, her face darkened with anger, making him flinch at her glare. There's no need. Don't follow me. I'll walk to my room myself, she snapped, brushing past him so close she nearly struck him in the process. Vincent stiffened, his expression tight as he watched her retreat. Madam, didn't she come wearing the fox fur coat earlier? He thought, his mind unsettled as he saw her leave. That evening, Bianca stood by the window in her room, weighed down with restless thoughts. I told myself I need to have his baby, even if it means I have to throw myself at him. But I bet the Count wouldn't budge at all. I could hurl myself at him again and again, and I'd just bounce right off. He's so much taller and scarier than I remember. Was his body always this built? Her face grew warm as she recalled his figure. Not that I would know. The only time I ever saw his body was in the dark. Seducing him won't be easy with a body like mine. Even if I wait years, I won't ever fill out the way other women do. I'm not voluptuous or soft, just thin, stiff. No man would be interested in someone like me. She quivered at the thought. Her mind drifted further. I wonder what kind of woman the Count's mistress is? Is she a serf? Another noble's daughter? He must love her. Why else would he have remembered the exact amount of my dowry? He must have gone over it many times, memorizing it. He's preparing to send me and my dowry back to Blanchefort as soon as he decides to make that woman Countess Arno instead. It doesn't matter who he loves, but the thought of bearing a child for a man who belongs to someone else, it disgusts me. She folded her arms, shivering slightly at the idea. Just then, something warm brushed her shoulders. She startled, looking up to see Zachary. You left your new fur coat in my room, he said, draping it over her properly. It suits you. His calm voice left her flushed. He adjusted the coat around her before adding quietly, Thank you for today. Without another word, he left. Bianca blinked, bewildered. Thank me? For what? Why bring up the fur coat like that? Was he reprimanding me for spending so much? She clenched the coat tightly in her hands. Conversations like this did happen in the past. Her mind replayed the memory of when she was newly married. Jean, her maid, had been furious when Zachary once gifted Bianca a squirrel fur coat. What is this, my lord? Isn't this squirrel fur? Not even sable would be enough for her right now. Lady Bianca gets cold very easily. Back in Blanchefort, she always had the finest coats made from the highest quality fur. You may be a count, but your household is nothing compared to Blanchefort. It's outrageous what Lord Blanchefort has done. Lady Bianca was never meant to marry into a humble household headed by the second son of a viscount. She was meant to be a duchess. Jean shouted openly at Zachary. If you need anything from now on, tell Vincent. Zachary had replied coolly, never losing composure. Jean's disdain for him was no secret. Her sharp tongue was infamous among the servants of Arno Castle. But in the years that followed, Zachary fought countless battles, built his wealth, and expanded his territory, so much so that Bianca's extravagances were no longer a burden to his household. Bianca thought back to that moment now. He may have meant the coat sarcastically, but sarcasm or gratitude, those were words I've never heard from before. He thanked me. Truly thanked me. Maybe it's because this was the first time I went to see him after he returned from war. He must have been shocked. Her lips curved slightly. Even when Jean scolded him, he never showed emotion. Always businesslike, always cold. But today, he revealed something. If I keep speaking to him face to face, I can change his mind about having an heir. One day, when the moment comes, I'll take him by surprise. Brace yourself, my lord. Elsewhere, soaking in his bath, Zachary flinched without reason. The next morning, Arno Castle buzzed with gossip. Is it true? Did Madame Bianca really search the whole place for his lordship? One woman asked. Yes, she came all the way out to the front court. I heard she even went straight to his room afterward, another replied. No way she did that. My wife was cleaning outside his chamber. She saw it herself. Bianca left her coat in his room, so his lordship came out and put it on her shoulders. I wonder what happened inside that room. Some women giggled knowingly. Don't get ahead of yourselves. The head butler, Vincent, was standing guard right there. Nothing scandalous could have happened. Still, Madame Bianca has never behaved like this before, and his lordship has never reacted that way either. Something must be going on. Whatever it is, it must be good, a maid said cheerfully. Madame Bianca is grown now. It wouldn't be unusual for her to have a child. Even if that's not her goal, this must mean their relationship is improving. Maybe she's had a change of heart. But not everyone shared the optimism. Change of heart? What difference does that make? Ante, another maid, sneered. Everyone knows his lordship will never truly care for her. She's dreary, sullen, and selfish. I can't believe the knights and servants are all excited about this nonsense. Have you forgotten what kind of person she is? All those tantrums, all that screaming? And honestly, I could probably do a better job warming his bed than she ever could. Ante, watch your tongue. That's disrespectful to both his lordship and Madame Bianca, another maid scolded. But Ante pressed on, smirking. I'm only telling the truth. Her skin's probably as cold and clammy as her personality. Like a snake. Or a frog. She's nothing but a skinny, ugly little reptile. Her laughter died in her throat as she felt a shadow behind her. Turning, she found Bianca standing there, her face dark with fury. You'd best bite down hard, girl, Bianca said, and without hesitation, struck her across the face with a sharp slap. Bianca sat quietly in her parlor, her hands busy with delicate lacework. The calm was broken when a woman entered, her tone falsely cheerful. Oh my, you've been sitting here all alone? Zachary told me you're willing to accept me as his second wife. Thanks to you, I can now live in Arno Castle too. The stranger smiled boldly. Bianca's heart stopped. Did she just call him Zachary? Who is this woman? Could she be the Count's mistress? The woman pressed on without pause. Don't you worry, sister-in-law. Zachary and I will manage Arno Castle and its lands. All you need to do is remain in your chambers, as you've always done. At that very moment, Zachary entered the room. The woman leaned against him as if to prove her place. We can discuss our heir later. For now, if you need anything, ask Vincent, Zachary said coldly. Bianca froze. Then, with a desperate cry, she blurted out, But you're the only one who can give me what I truly need, my lord. There's no one else. Her voice broke as she sank. Then, suddenly, she woke up. Bianca gasped, sitting upright, her hand against her head. That dream felt so real. Maybe his rejection yesterday unsettled me more than I realized. The memory returned. Yesterday, the Count had revealed something of his feelings. A rare occurrence. But even so, who was to say a mistress wouldn't barge into the castle one day? For now, I need to run into his lordship more often. We must discuss having an heir. Or perhaps, I must be bold enough to seize the chance myself. She dressed quickly, though a sense of humiliation pressed against her chest. It is degrading to beg for something so intimate. But what other choice do I have? As she stepped out of her room, voices caught her attention. She stilled. After all, his lordship has to accept that dreary woman, doesn't he? It was Ante, her words cutting the air. Bianca drew closer, hiding by the door, listening as the maids tried to hush her. But Ante went on, relentless. That's what everyone thinks. Have you forgotten what kind of person she is? And since we're speaking of it, I could probably do a better job warming his lordship's bed than her. Bianca's expression darkened. A dreary, vicious woman, a wife who brought shame upon her household. I have heard these words before. They echoed even when I was cast into the streets in my previous life. Back then, I trained myself to ignore them. But now, I will not. Her anger surged, and she stepped forward. In an instant, her hand struck across Ante's face with a sharp slap. The maid's eyes widened, fear and pain mingling. Bianca's voice cut cold. You said I'm stick-thin, ugly, clammy like a reptile? You knew I was frigid like a frog or snake, but did you know I'm actually a viper? Ante trembled. The other maids stood frozen, none daring to speak. That must be why you were flapping your mouth in the very hallways I walk through, Bianca continued, rolling up her sleeves. She snapped her gaze to another maid. You there? Bring me a switch. The maid obeyed quickly, returning with a cane. Bianca seized it, her eyes flashing. There is a limit to how much I can be looked down on. How dare she compare herself to me, a mere servant comparing herself to her mistress? She pointed at Ante. Hands out. Ante quivered but obeyed, stretching trembling palms forward. The cane came down with sharp cracks. This is for comparing your lowly self with your master. Crack. This is for listening to gossip about your masters. Crack. This is for running your filthy mouth. Crack. This is for slandering me. Crack. With each blow, Bianca's fury thundered. A small crowd began to gather. Whispers ran through them. Someone called for head butler Vincent. And this, Bianca shouted, raising the switch again, is for daring to covet the lord of this house, a man you can never have. But before the strike fell, a hand caught her wrist. Bianca's gaze snapped upward. A knight stood there, Robert. His face was tense, his grip firm. What are you doing? He asked. Bianca's eyes narrowed. Who are you? Pardon? Robert sounded taken aback. Ante collapsed to the floor, clutching her hands. The bystanders whispered. Everyone knew Zachary had 3 loyal commanders. Robert was one of them, serving the Count long before Bianca arrived at Arno Castle. She doesn't even know my name? Robert thought, disbelieving. My name is Robert, my lady. Bianca's mind clicked. Robert? Isn't he one of the 3 commanders of the Count's forces? I am disciplining a maid. Let go, she demanded. Flogging with a switch is too harsh, my lady, Robert countered. You are our mistress, but I cannot stand idle while you treat a servant like an animal. Ante's thoughts turned bitter. How did this blow up into such a commotion? All I did was speak the truth. But Bianca's voice cut through again. Fierce. I know I am extravagant. I know I am unkind. But I am not so generous as to let slander pass before my very face. Just because I am frigid and unloved does not mean you can crawl into my husband's bed. Her glare bore into Ante, who flinched under the weight of it. Then a deep, commanding voice rumbled through the tense hall. What is going on here? All heads turned. The Count had arrived. Zachary himself stood before them. Bianca's breath caught. The Count? What is he doing here? The Count's sudden appearance unsettled everyone. Why did he have to appear right now? Bianca thought, her face remaining cold and unimpressed. Ante, on the other hand, brightened up at once. Despite her disheveled appearance, she looked relieved. What a blessing! His lordship will surely defend me, she thought, recalling the Count's reputation for fairness. Zachary was known to be merciful. Once, when he caught a man stealing half a sack of wheat, he let him go unscathed. Instead of punishment, he merely ordered the thief to return with a full sack by the following year. In truth, the man ought to have lost a hand for stealing from his lord, but Zachary had chosen leniency. Ante remembered this well, and her confidence grew. Bianca, however, noticed the sudden change in the maid's demeanor and glared at her. The look was sharp enough to make Ante flinch. So this is the girl. She's your secret mistress, Bianca thought bitterly. Zachary, calm and composed, turned his eyes not to Ante but to Bianca, noticing the bruises forming on her hand from wielding the switch. Bianca, is your hand all right? He asked gently. My hand? She thought, almost forgetting her own pain until she glanced down. Her palm throbbed, reddened and swollen from striking Ante repeatedly. Still, she clenched the switch tightly. Vincent, summon the physician, Zachary ordered his butler. My wife's hand needs treatment. Bianca's expression hardened. I'm fine. Tell your physician to tend instead to your precious girl's face. She's your mistress, isn't she? I flogged her to discipline a servant. I don't think my actions were excessive, but very well, I shall withdraw for today. After all, she herself declared she could warm your bed in my place. Her words dripped with anger as she pointed at Ante. Then she strode away, pressing the switch against Robert's arm as she passed him. Madame, what about your treatment? Vincent asked cautiously. I don't need it. Do you want everyone gossiping about how I flogged a maid? Treat that girl's pretty face instead, she snapped, slamming her door shut behind her. The tension in the air grew thick. Zachary stood still, his voice quiet but cold. You. Explain what happened. My lord, Ante began with practiced tears. I was merely scrubbing the floor with all my might. But, Zachary cut in sharply, his teeth clenched as his eyes bore into her. If you were just scrubbing, then why would my wife accuse you of being my mistress? His tone was enough to leave Ante speechless. Without waiting for her answer, he turned to Vincent. See to it that this doesn't become fodder for gossip. Then he walked away, leaving silence in his wake. Vincent's face grew stern. Pack your things. You'll return home at once. This girl has told me everything. A servant must be discreet, but your tongue is far too loose. This castle is not suited for you. Ante's eyes widened in panic. One moment, sir. Please. Head butler, listen to me, she pleaded, but Vincent was unmoved. He turned to Robert instead. And you? What brought you here? Robert still held the switch Bianca had dropped. I saw Madame Bianca striking the maid, so I intervened. Now I see she had every reason. The maid insulted her ladyship. Truthfully, I'm surprised Madame didn't let it slide. She never showed interest in managing the castle or its people. Until now, she stayed secluded in her chambers, buying things and ignoring affairs. Today was different. She acted as the mistress of the house should. Harsh, perhaps, but necessary. Vincent nodded slightly. It seems Madame Bianca has had a change of heart regarding Arno. Meanwhile, in her chambers, Bianca lay in bed nursing her swollen hand. She winced at the throbbing pain. If my hand is this swollen, then that wretch's hands must be as puffy as dough. The thought almost makes me feel better. Yet another thought unsettled her. Is the Count comforting her now? Holding her hands? Whispering that one day he'll cast me aside and make her his countess? Her eyes drifted to her fur coat. She stroked it gently with her sore hand. The truth was, Bianca had no confidant in Arno. Jean, her nursemaid from Blanchefort, had been the only one she trusted. But Jean had died 5 years ago. Bianca had never taken another personal maid since. She bore her loneliness silently, with no one to lean on. The one recounting this story was nothing more than a humble maid who once scrubbed the floors outside Bianca's door. She had seen her mistress endure in solitude, unable to help. That day, however, another maid entered quietly. Beg your pardon, madam, she said softly. Who is it? Bianca asked curtly. I've brought herb-infused water for a compress. It will ease the swelling. I know you dislike seeing physicians. May I prepare this just once? I'll be quick and quiet, madam, please. Bianca studied her, then nodded. Go ahead. The maid carefully held Bianca's hand and pressed the warm towel against it. Bianca flinched at the sting. It hurts, doesn't it? I'll be gentle. Please endure a little, the maid said kindly. Bianca felt the warmth seep into her hand, sparking a memory. Years ago, Jean had tended to her injured hand in just the same way. Jean had told her, you bore your pain bravely before the servants, though you fell. I'm sure they wanted to help you, but they dared not touch you because of your high station. Remember this, madam. One day, someone who understands you will appear. When they do, be the first to reach out and let them hold your hand. What's your name? Bianca asked suddenly. My name is Yvonne, madam, the maid replied with a bright smile. This works well. Could you apply the compress again tomorrow? Bianca asked, her voice measured but betraying a quiet plea. Yvonne's eyes widened. She saw through the facade. Bianca's request was a reaching out, her first in years. Yvonne's heart swelled with joy. Yes, of course, my lady. As Yvonne worked, Bianca's mind turned elsewhere. But what now? The Count surely loves another woman. He won't want a child with me. Without an heir, my place in Arno is fragile. What do I do? How do I survive? Think, Bianca. Think of a plan. Her thoughts were interrupted when Yvonne gasped. Oh, how beautiful! Forgive me, madam. I found this on the floor. It looks like a goddess's robe. I've never seen fabric so fine. She held up the delicate lace. Bianca looked at it, then smirked. Yes, that's right. Even if I lack the Count's heir, even if I have no father or brother to support me, I still have a weapon of my own. And for the first time that day, Bianca smiled, a trace of resolve lighting her face. 10 years earlier, in Lahaz, the capital of Sevron, Zachary was making his way through one of the palace corridors. You there! One moment, young knight! A voice called out, urgent and breathless. Zachary slowed his steps, turning to see a man hurrying toward him. Perhaps it's your long legs, but you walk rather fast, the man said between short breaths. Then, studying Zachary closely, he asked, Sir, by any chance, are you Viscount Hughes's son? My brother inherited the Hughes Viscounty 3 years ago, Zachary replied calmly. I am now the Lord of Arno. The man's eyes lit with recognition. So you are indeed the son of the former Viscount Hughes, Baron Zachary D. Arno. Straightening, he introduced himself with a firm voice. My name is Gustave de Blanchefort. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Zachary's eyes widened at the name. Count Blanchefort, a loyal vassal of Sevran and the right-hand man of First Prince Gautier. Quickly, he bowed low. I did not recognize you, my lord. Please pardon my discourtesy. Not at all, Count Blanchefort said with a genial smile. I am the one who stopped you. His tone softened as he continued, Would you be willing to spare me a few minutes? I have long wished to speak with you. Soon, the two were seated in the Count's estate, a table between them set with steaming cups. This is floral tea, Blanchefort explained warmly, a blend of blossoms from the first princess's garden. Steeping flowers in hot water has become quite the fashion of late. Truly, what greater pleasure than to share such fragrance with a brave knight? Zachary took a sip, then carefully placed his cup back on the saucer. His eyes sharpened. I take it you have something important to discuss. Blanchefort's cheer gave way to gravity. I have spent all my years serving the King of Sevran with loyalty, and His Highness, Prince Gautier, is the rightful heir to the throne. I have never doubted it. Yet, a faction has emerged, supporters of the second prince, Jacob. For now they are few, but the threat cannot be ignored. His gaze fixed intently on Zachary. How would you like to serve as the first prince's trusted blade? Zachary's brow furrowed. I thank you for the offer, but I am still only a greenhorn, a man who has only just been granted a baronetcy. How could one so unproven as I presume to serve directly at His Highness's side? Blanchefort chuckled. A man of no renown? You are far too modest. You are Zachary de Arnaud, the Black Wolf of Sevran. At 16, you charged alone into battlefields. You have already earned a baron's title by your own merit. That is hardly the record of a greenhorn. He leaned forward, his smile returning but his tone unwavering. I have pledged myself, now and always, to Prince Gautier. Do you think I would choose a man without careful consideration? No. I offer you a place not merely as a knight, but as a loyal blade who will serve the future king himself. Join me, and let us share in the glory of Sevran's bright future. Zachary lowered his gaze. If the man I am to serve is none other than the future king, how could I possibly refuse? I look forward to your guidance, my lord. Blanchefort's smile deepened. And I to working with you, but there is another matter. He hesitated, his expression almost bashful. What do you think of marriage? Zachary blinked. Pardon? With you? Blanchefort laughed. You are certainly a man without prejudice, but no, of course not. I already have a wife. What I mean is, my daughter has not yet wed. If you were to marry her, you would not only be my comrade, but also family. In that case, my connections and wealth would be yours to rely on entirely. A marriage like this is no small opportunity. Zachary's thoughts turned inward. Blanchefort's proposal was not one to dismiss lightly. Having been cast out from the house of Hugh with nothing, Zachary had little name or fortune to his own. Marriage into such a powerful house would grant him honor, stability, and wealth. It was more than a union. It was a contract, a promise of prosperity. And the dowry itself spoke volumes. 400 calves, 900 pigs, 100 bulls, 300 bolts of silk, 2 chests of jewels, and even a portion of territory. The value alone matched Arnaud's budget for 2 full years. Vincent, upon seeing the dowry list, was left reeling. This much? For a bride? Arnaud cannot possibly provide her the treatment she deserves. We'll have to give our all to make it so, he murmured. Zachary, ever pragmatic, turned his mind to military matters. Send a reply to the lord who requested our troops last month. Ask what campaign fund he offers for our aid, he instructed calmly. Marriage, he thought, was much like a transaction. And through this transaction, he had gained not only wealth and standing, but also a wife, Bianca. Later, Zachary's gaze lingered on her hand, now swollen from her first clumsy attempts at household management. He remembered how fragile she had seemed, and yet how much weight now rested upon her. One night, he tossed something out of the castle in frustration before urgently summoning his 3 commanders. Why the rush? They muttered as they hurried to his chambers. Has Aragon invaded again? We only just returned yesterday. Are we to march so soon? Robert, first to enter, spoke sharply. You called for us, my lord? That was quick, Zachary said, adjusting the reading glasses perched on his nose. My lord, has Aragon struck once more? Do we prepare for war? Robert pressed. No, Zachary said gravely. This matter is far more crucial than war. His words stunned them. More important than war? Robert and Gaspard exchanged tense looks, while Sauveur, his face oddly flushed, couldn't stop staring. Are those glasses? With arms? How stylish. I want one of you to serve as my wife's guide, Zachary continued firmly. The three men gaped. Pardon? This truly is more serious than battle, one muttered. Why does her ladyship need a guard? She hardly leaves her chambers. Sauveur exclaimed. It must be because of today's incident, Robert said grimly. Do you believe something like that will happen again, my lord? What incident? Sauveur asked. Ah, you mean when she beat the maid senseless? Then, do you want a guard to silence the witnesses? Or someone to pay off settlements when it happens again? Sauveur, enough, Robert snapped, irritated. Zachary's voice cut through their bickering, steady and resolute. From what I hear, Bianca seldom leaves her rooms. And yet, the very moment she did, this occurred. I want one of my most trusted men to remain at her side. My wife must never be harmed again. For in all of Arno, she is the one most deserving of protection. His eyes turned to the window, his tone unwavering. The next morning, Yvonne stepped quietly into Bianca's room, carrying a bowl of her herbal water. She eased the door open and greeted softly. Good morning, madam. Bianca was still asleep, her face drawn with pain from the bruised and swollen hand that had yet to heal. Oh, she's still asleep. But she needs to wake up, Yvonne thought as she pulled open the curtains, letting the morning light spill in. She sat by Bianca's bedside and gently examined the injured hand. The swelling hadn't gone down. It would heal faster if she let the physician treat it, Yvonne reflected. Still, she dipped her cloth into the herbal mixture and pressed it carefully against Bianca's wounds. As she worked, Yvonne's thoughts drifted to her own family. She had a younger sister, Lucy, who was about Bianca's age. Lucy had also married a man far older than her, and because of that, Yvonne rarely saw her anymore. The thought of Bianca living in the vast, lonely castle reminded Yvonne of her sister's situation, stirring a quiet sympathy in her heart. Suddenly, Bianca stirred and lightly grabbed Yvonne's hand. Is that you, Yvonne? She mumbled. Madam, I'm so sorry. Did I wake you? Yvonne asked calmly. No, I was planning to get up around this time anyway. I won't laze around in bed, thanks to you, Bianca said as she sat up slowly. Adjusting her hair, she added, Could you help me change? Yvonne nodded. Are you going out, madam? She asked softly. Yes, I have a lot of things to do today, Bianca replied with a faint smirk. As the two left the room, Bianca shivered slightly against the morning chill. It's still a bit cold, she thought. Forgive my clumsiness, madam. I forgot your fur coat. I'll fetch it at once, Yvonne said with a smile, hurrying back toward the room. Bianca's eyes followed her. That girl is perceptive, smart. She always tries to accommodate me. If I'd known her earlier, if she had been in my life before, would things have turned out differently? Bianca quickly stopped herself. Get a grip. No more what-ifs. You barely have enough time now, even if you focus completely on your new life. Don't waste it dwelling on regrets. Her face hardened as she resumed walking. Later, in Vincent's study, Bianca stood before him with a determined expression. Her request startled him so much he set down his pen. Madam, what did you just say? He asked. Even before I married his lordship, you managed Arno in a most prudent manner, Bianca said firmly. Yes, I have. Vincent answered, tense. The new lady of the house usually takes on those responsibilities, but I wasn't able to. I was too young. That's true, he admitted. But I'm 19 now. I'm certainly of age to manage the household properly, and who better to teach me than you? That's why I want you to instruct me in earnest, Vincent. She stood glowing with resolve. Vincent, hearing her call his name properly, felt a wave of unexpected happiness. Why am I so pleased by something so trivial? He wondered. But he couldn't deny it. Bianca had changed. Ever since she received the white fox fur coat, she wasn't the same frivolous woman she used to be. Her spending, once excessively heavy, had shifted into irregular patterns, sometimes light, sometimes moderate, rarely extravagant. She no longer sought luxury blindly. Even yesterday's incident showed her growth. Though her punishment of the maid had been harsh, she had acted decisively, refusing to be a passive bystander. And now, standing before him with this request, she wasn't speaking lightly. She was serious. Leave it to me, madam, Vincent said, standing with new resolve. There's nothing like seeing it firsthand. Since you've raised the subject, I'll explain everything while we tour the territory together. Let us go. Bianca's face brightened. Giving birth to the Count's child will not be easy. I already know that from my past life. So let me start with what I neglected before, managing Arno. I'll learn the tasks, find the right people, and bring progress to this land. If I succeed, the Count will see that I am not a child, but a capable partner. At the castle's entrance, Vincent halted. There is something else. It concerns your guard. My guard? Bianca asked, folding her arms. Yes, one of these men will be assigned to you starting today. He gestured to 3 knights standing nearby. You met Sir Robert yesterday. This is Sir Gaspar, more reserved in temperament. And this is Sir Sauveur, who comes from a family of free citizens. Well then, madam, who will you choose as your guard? You want me to pick right now? Bianca asked, uneasy. One must strike while the iron is hot, Vincent said brightly. Bianca's eyes moved across the commanders' faces. These men are the Count's most loyal subordinates, but it's plain they're uncomfortable. How can I choose one of them like this? She sighed inwardly. It's fine. I have you with me. I'd rather avoid the fuss of moving with a large group, she said carefully. Forgive me, madam, Vincent replied, but this was his lordship's command. Bianca stiffened. So this wasn't a request. It was Zachary's order. Here I thought I could become his political partner, his equal. But in the end, he simply assigns me a guard, one of his closest men, no less. Is this about protection or surveillance? Her thoughts darkened. A guard who reports everything I do back to him. If that's true, then can I truly call myself his equal in this marriage? The weight of her realization settled heavily in her chest, her face tightening with silent misery. Bianca tried to steady her thoughts. It is true that for her entire life, a wife will need her husband's permission for everything. But the Count, he never demanded anything of me all these years. I need to think of this in a positive way, she told herself, calming her heart. Her eyes moved toward Robert, who looked tense. That man, yesterday he tried to stop me without even hearing me out. I can already imagine it. He'd be the kind to nag at me wherever we go. Her gaze shifted. Gaspard, he's quiet, doesn't say anything unnecessary, but maybe that very silence would be frustrating. Then there's Sauveur. He's from a family of free citizens, right? As if on cue, Sauveur smiled and gave her a thumbs up. Bianca frowned. Completely tactless. Definitely a no. She felt the weight of the moment press down on her. This is my second life, but I don't think I've ever had to make such a suffocating decision. I don't like any of them, but if I must choose... A shiver ran through her as her cold worsened. She raised her hand, ready to speak, but froze when she felt a coat draped gently over her shoulders. Bianca's face flushed red. Who is this? Could it be... Zachary? Like before? But a voice quickly broke her thought. I'm sorry, madam. I didn't know where you were, so I went all the way to the head butler's room before coming out here. That's why it took me so long, Yvonne explained. Realization dawned. It was not Zachary, but Yvonne. Thank you, Yvonne. You must have had a hard time going up and down the stairs, Bianca said softly. I'm fine, madam. Being healthy is my specialty, Yvonne answered brightly. Bianca looked happier, her expression softening. The knights, however, were caught off guard. They exchanged perplexed glances, watching the easy rapport between lady and maid. Who's the cute maid? Her ladyship seems very friendly with her, Sauveur whispered, his face tinged pink. Not sure. Maybe her personal maid. Her ladyship didn't even recognize me at first, but she knows that maid by name, Robert muttered back. Yvonne turned her gaze on them, and all 3 knights stiffened under it. When she smiled gently, they flushed in embarrassment. It was stressful, but somehow Yvonne eased the tension, Bianca thought with relief. Still, why aren't any of them volunteering for the job? At last, a voice rang out. I, one knight began, raising his hand. I would like to serve as Madame Bianca's guard, Gaspard declared firmly. The words drew startled looks from Robert and Sauveur. Gaspard? They muttered under their breath. Bianca studied him carefully. He and the Count, they're about the same size. And just like Zachary, I can never tell what's going through his mind. He stepped up so easily, but that makes me uneasy too. What is he thinking? Robert and Sauveur scolded him sharply, but Gaspard remained silent, unmoved by their protests. I can hear you all bickering, Bianca thought dryly. At least with Gaspard, I won't have to deal with noise. That's fine with me, she said aloud at last, turning to Vincent. Very well, madame. With that, the position of Madam's guard goes to Sir Gaspard, Vincent announced. We've wasted enough time here. Shall I show you to the seamstress's quarters first? Yes, please, Bianca replied. But before she could take another step, a familiar voice called out. Bianca. She turned quickly, her eyes widening as Zachary approached. The Count? Zachary stopped in front of her, silent, his eyes fixed on her face. Bianca flushed under his gaze. What is it? Why are you staring at me so intently? She asked nervously. I'm going to touch your face for a moment, he told her plainly. What? She asked, startled. But before she could resist, his hand brushed against her cheek. Everyone nearby, Vincent, the knights, even Yvonne, stared, their faces heating at the scene. Bianca's heart raced as Zachary gently pressed the back of his hand against her skin. You have a fever, he said simply. Huh? Oh, he's right! You must have been standing outside too long without your coat, Yvonne exclaimed. Robert glanced toward the Count's office window. Was his lordship watching us this whole time? I think you should return to your room now, Zachary said calmly. I need to speak with my wife, so I'll be taking her with me. The rest of you, return to your duties. He placed his hand lightly against Bianca's back to guide her inside. She flinched at his touch, but followed as they entered the castle. The knights looked on, whispering with excitement, His lordship is escorting Madame Bianca himself. Inside, Zachary walked just ahead of her, his steps measured. Bianca's thoughts churned bitterly. I know exactly what this is about. Yesterday's incident. He must want me to apologize to that woman. I can barely recall her face, only that she was blonde. He probably wants to smooth things over with her. After all, she's the one he wants as his second wife. Well, aren't you the devoted lover of the century? While you spent days of passion with her, I spent mine alone in my room, drowning in loneliness. Her teeth clenched. What kind of excuse would you have made if I didn't have a fever? She stopped suddenly, making Zachary pause. You can tell me to apologize to that girl all you want, but I won't. I have pride too, you know. She may be the woman you love, but I am Countess Arno. For now, at least, Bianca said softly, her face turned away. I dismissed that maid, Zachary replied. Her head snapped toward him. What? You dismissed her? Wait, is this your way of trying to make me feel indebted to you? Her voice grew sharp. Zachary only watched her in silence. Then, in a steady voice, he said, I don't have a mistress. The words struck her silent. Her face tensed, her breath catching. You just want to downplay everything and move on, don't you? She challenged. You treat me like a child, but you can't fool me with such words. He stepped closer, brushing her hair gently aside. His hand lingered against her cheek, his own face flushed. I don't know what kind of scoundrel you take me for, but I am not the kind of despicable husband who secretly keeps a mistress. Bianca froze, his palm warm against her fevered skin, his presence overwhelming. Maybe it's the fever, or maybe it's the way he's covering my eyes. I can't even tell whose heartbeat I'm hearing anymore. It's roaring so loudly in my ears. Her face burned, her thoughts tangled between suspicion, disbelief, and a strange, undeniable pull toward him. The tension in the room was heavy, hanging between Bianca and Zachary like an invisible thread pulled taut. What is this scent? Bianca wondered, her eyes narrowing slightly as her senses stirred. From Zachary's wrist came a fragrance she knew all too well. It was musk, the very scent that had once enveloped her in a moment of intimacy from her past life. That memory burned in her chest, threatening to pull her back into the feelings she had tried so hard to bury. Zachary, unaware of her racing thoughts, let go of her face, jolting Bianca back to the present. Embarrassed at herself, she tried to conceal her flush. I can't believe I was thinking about such things just now. But she held her ground. So you're saying she wasn't your mistress? Very well. If you hate hearing about mistresses so much, I'll take it that you don't have one. And I'll never bring it up again. Zachary sighed at her stubborn tone. You're so headstrong. If we had a child already, I'd never doubt you or think for a second you'd be concerned about another woman. His words hit Bianca where her insecurities lived. If others heard that a noble woman like me had no children at 19, what would they think? She challenged. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks, Zachary replied firmly. If I say I don't have a mistress, then I don't. And besides, it's still too early to talk about heirs. Her frustration only grew. If you have no plans for an heir, then why saddle me with a personal guard? They're a nuisance at my side, yet you insisted I pick one of them? I only wish to prevent what happened yesterday from happening again, he said evenly. I have a personal maid now, Bianca countered. But Zachary cut through her reasoning with ironclad logic. Who do you think would protect you better? A knight trained for battle, or a servant who only knows household chores? A maid is just a maid. Bianca knew she had lost this round. They call him the Count of Blood and Iron, but he might as well be a wall of iron, she thought bitterly. Grinding her teeth, she muttered, You think I'm stubborn? Pot calling the kettle black. Her temper boiled over. I'm only moving about inside your castle. What more could possibly happen? Not mine, Zachary corrected her gently, but with a firmness that stopped her short. Arno Castle isn't just mine, it's ours. The word ours struck her harder than she expected. Her hand trembled as it brushed over her wedding ring. He's never said anything like this before. Not in this life, not even in my past one. Noticing her fever rising, Zachary laid a steady hand on her back. Enough. Let's not argue anymore. You've ruined my plans for today, my lord, she murmured. Our talk didn't even become an argument, he said lightly, but she could feel the weight of something unsaid between them. You were about to tell me something. What was it? She wondered as they walked on. That night, Bianca's condition worsened. She lay beneath her sheets, fever climbing higher until she was bedridden for several days. In her delirium, she thought about where the illness might have begun, her mind looping back to her earlier exchanges with Zachary. Meanwhile, in his study, Zachary sat with his knights over tea. I hear you volunteered to serve as Bianca's guard, Gaspard, he began. He turned to the others. Robert, Sauveur? Split his old duties. Robert, take the military logistics. Sauveur, handle the stables. Gaspard, you focus only on guarding Madame Bianca. The men agreed, though Sauveur's face already betrayed unease. Vincent entered then, offering cups of vin chaud. I haven't made this in a while, he said warmly. There was even a time Madame called me vin chaud for a while, before she shortened it to Vinny. Strange thing, though. Today she asked me to teach her how to manage the household. Madame's heart is like a drop of water rolling across a lotus leaf. No telling where it will fall next. Zachary paused mid-sip. Didn't you say she rarely leaves her room? Yes, Vincent confirmed. That was her old habit. But these past few days she's certainly caused quite a stir. The knights leaned in, curious. Robert and Gaspard both wondered the same thing. What had their lord discussed with Bianca in private that he hadn't even allowed her maid to witness? She suspected I had a mistress, Zachary explained simply. I think she feared I might send her back to Blanchefort. Robert tensed. So that's why she reacted so strongly to that maid's words yesterday. Has Bianca written to Blanchefort at all? Zachary asked Vincent. Not once, Vincent replied. Nor has she received any letters from there. Zachary's thoughts drifted back 5 years, to the day Bianca's nursemaid Jean had died of plague. He had told Count Blanchefort of Bianca's grief, expecting some paternal concern, but instead, Blanchefort spoke only of politics, warning of famine and infection, caring nothing for Bianca herself. That memory hardened Zachary's conviction. Her father had never truly cared for her. Returning to the present, he gave Vincent his orders. If Bianca wants to learn something, teach her in earnest, and pay close attention to what interests her most. I want her prepared to manage the household before spring. I'll be taking her to La Haze then. The room stirred at this revelation. Robert nearly choked on his tea, while Sauveur paled. So this guard duty isn't temporary after all? A whole year under her ladyship's scrutiny? Robert groaned inwardly. And that journey to La Haze. I can already imagine the torment, Sauveur thought, trembling. In his mind's theater, he acted out the disaster. Bianca refusing to stay in the carriage, demanding tea in the middle of the forest, scolding Gaspard for his cluelessness. His imagination spiraled until a sudden thought struck him. Wait, why is his lordship bringing her at all? A 19-year-old noblewoman ought to have borne children by now. Could it be? Sauveur blurted out, My lord, are you taking her ladyship to La Haze in hopes of begetting an heir? The boldness of the question made Zachary's eyes widen. Thank you for watching this episode of our Manhwa Recap. We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of this story with us. If you loved the content, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more amazing manhwa recaps. See you in the next episode.